Chosen ones, this message is for you. When that connection seared into your life, it wasn't a coincidence, it was destiny, igniting something primal within you, forcing you to face the deepest parts of yourself. That encounter was meant to shatter illusions, awaken your purpose, and demand you confront the truth. You felt it, the undeniable pull, the shift in everything. This is where transformation begins. There was someone in your past who ignited a fire within you, a force so overwhelming it surged through every fiber of your being. Their presence felt like a storm, not one that gently rolls in, but one that crashes violently against your soul, stripping away everything you thought you knew about yourself. You were left exposed, vulnerable, and shaken. This was no ordinary person. They tore open your consciousness, peeling back the layers of your false identities, your pretenses, your masks. You thought they were a soulmate, perhaps even a twin flame, labels that pale in comparison to the enormity of what they represented. They weren't here to love you gently. They were sent to unmake you. This connection felt divine, like the universe itself had forced it upon you with ruthless precision. There was no running, no hiding. Their energy consumed you, sinking into your very essence. They triggered something dormant, the buried, forgotten parts of your psyche that lay in the shadows, waiting for an awakening. Their words, their touch, their mere presence forced you to confront the ugliest truths of your existence, the insecurities, the wounds, the unresolved traumas you thought you had cleverly hidden away. Then came the breaking point. This connection, once your guiding light, faded into silence. You haven't heard from them in ages, but their absence is louder than anything. It's a ghost that lingers in every corner of your mind, whispering memories of what once was and what could have been. You remember thinking they were the one. Their departure was a collapse, like watching a star implode into nothingness, dragging pieces of your heart into its abyss. They left a void, a black hole that seemed to suck the life out of everything. Yet through that void, you found something else. In the desolation they left behind, you found yourself. The raw, unfiltered truth of who you are emerged from the ashes of that destruction. You saw your own reflection in the shattered pieces of what they broke in you. This was never about love in the traditional sense. This was about awakening. They were the catalyst, the wrecking ball that had to come into your life to obliterate the walls you built around yourself. You thought they were the one to save you, but really, they were the one to destroy you, so you could finally save yourself. This person wasn't a mere passerby in your life. They were the flame thrown into dry kindling, igniting a wildfire that could not be contained. You may have once thought their presence was temporary, just a fleeting chapter, but the truth is far deeper. They were a force, a catalyst that shattered the walls of your being and set off an irreversible transformation. They weren't here to walk alongside you. They were here to tear apart the foundations of everything you thought you knew, to plunge you into the darkness where true growth happens. The devastation they left behind wasn't meant to destroy you, but to strip away the illusions, to burn off the dead weight that kept you bound to an old version of yourself. And now look at you. You have healed. Not in the shallow way people use that word, but in the way that feels like you've scraped your very soul raw, broken it down, and rebuilt it with trembling hands. Your heart, once fractured and aching, has been pieced back together, not by someone else, but by your own inner will, your own light. You've pulled your inner child from the depths of neglect and bathed it in the nurturing care it always deserved. The wounds of your past no longer define you, no longer hold you captive. The scars, once fresh and bleeding, are now symbols of the battles you fought and won. You've grounded yourself in a way that seemed inconceivable before. Once the storms of life would knock you off your feet, sending you spiraling into chaos. Now you stand rooted like a mountain, immovable, unshakable. You found your center, and it radiates with the kind of power that only comes from surviving your own personal hell. Through this grounding, you've unlocked something far greater, the highest version of yourself. You've stepped into your own light, the one that has always been there, waiting for you to see it. Your heart is open now, not to anyone else, but to the vast potential of who you are. This is the result of that connection, that explosion from the past. It was never about them. It was always about you, chosen one. The fire they sparked in you burned away the illusions, leaving only your truest, most powerful self standing in the ash. Now you rise. Look at you, standing stronger than ever, forged by the fires they thought would break you. You've scraped your soul raw, rebuilt it with trembling hands, and emerged a force to be reckoned with. They tried to keep you down, but here you are, unshakable, immovable, grounded in the power you've always had within you. And now it's time to take that strength even further. This is your moment to rise and step into the obsidian inner order, where the true chosen ones gather, armed with wisdom, power, and the modern manifestation mechanics grimoire, exclusive to those who dare. This isn't for the faint of heart. You've earned your scars, and now it's time to turn them into badges of honor. Inside the OIO, you'll access uncensored content that YouTube can't handle, and you'll unlock knowledge that will shape your future. Knowledge that most people aren't ready for. If you've been through hell and back, if you've faced the storm and stood your ground, then this is where you belong. You'll join a rapidly growing community of over 300 chosen ones, where you'll find connection, strength, and the next level of your ascension. Don't wait, don't hesitate. Your path is clear, your power undeniable, and your next step is right here. The link to Patreon is in the description. It's time to rise. It's time to claim your place among the elite, to inherit the universe, and to be part of the #1 nexus for chosen ones on the internet. The Star Chamber is waiting for you, but slots are limited. Step up now and take what's yours. Just as you start to find your footing, just as the earth beneath you finally feels stable, your twin flame reappears. Years have passed in silence, years where you believed the chapter had closed, and suddenly they step back into your life, not as a memory, but as a tangible force. After all this time, they return with words that crack open the still healing scars, with a presence that drags the past to the surface like a wave crashing against a shore you've spent years fortifying. Their timing is maddening, almost cruel in its precision. You had begun to move forward, to release the hold they once had on your soul, and yet here they are, as if they were waiting for the exact moment when you finally felt free. The emotions their return stirs are like an old wound torn open, raw and seething. It's not just sadness or longing, it's fury, confusion, and an overwhelming sense of injustice. How dare they return now after all this time, after all the nights you spent stitching yourself back together? The very sight of them feels like a storm, rolling in without warning, threatening to undo everything you fought so hard to rebuild. The space you had carefully carved out for peace, for growth, trembles under the weight of their presence, as if your very foundation is being tested once again. But now, you're different. You are no longer the fragile version of yourself who was consumed by their absence. You don't crumble under the intensity of their return. Instead, you see it for exactly what it is, a trigger, a catalyst designed to test the strength you've cultivated. Their presence, once suffocating, now feels like a mirror held up to you, showing you just how far you've come. The emotions they bring to the surface aren't weaknesses. They're evidence of your depth, of your capacity to feel, and your refusal to remain bound by the past. You see through the illusion, through the romanticized idea of their return, and recognize the test for what it is. This isn't about rekindling what once was. Their reappearance is not a cosmic sign to reunite, but a final challenge, one meant to force you to stand firm in your power. You face them not as the person who once needed their presence for validation, but as someone who has already found that validation within yourself. Their return does not define your path, you do. The twin flame crashes into your life like a tempest, unrelenting and full of chaos. Their presence disrupts everything, turning your inner world upside down, sparking fires you thought you had long extinguished. They are the storm that rages, demanding your attention, pulling at the most vulnerable parts of your soul. They don't bring comfort. They bring a wild energy that forces you to confront every raw, unhealed wound. It's intoxicating, but destructive. You've been through this before. The whirlwind of intensity, the feeling of being pulled into a force larger than yourself. You know this pattern all too well, and every time it's as if the ground is swept out from under you. Then there's the soulmate. The soulmate enters not like a storm, but like a calm wind, steady and unwavering. Their presence is not one that seeks to tear you apart, but one that brings protection, peace, and balance. They provide a sanctuary amidst the chaos of life, holding space for you without demands or conditions. When you're with them, you feel grounded, whole. They don't stir the flames of insecurity or doubt. Instead, they soothe them, offering a quiet refuge where you can rest. In contrast to the twin flame who thrives in disruption, the soulmate's energy is like the steady rhythm of the earth beneath your feet, allowing you to breathe and grow without fear of collapse. But now, the twin flame reappears, as they always seem to, drawn back into your life whenever you begin to find your footing. And yet, nothing has changed. They remain the same chaotic force, unchanged by time, as if stuck in a loop that you've long outgrown. Every time they return, it feels like the same old dance, one that once thrilled you but now only exhausts you. The chaos they bring used to feel necessary, like a part of your transformation, but now it's a weight that you no longer wish to carry. Their return, rather than igniting something within you, now feels like a step backward, a pull into a version of yourself you no longer recognize. You see the pattern now for what it is, a cycle that no longer serves you. Their reappearance isn't a sign to reconnect, but a test of your growth. You have changed, evolved, and stepped into a new space where peace and stability matter more than the allure of intensity. The twin flame's chaos no longer draws you in. You found something greater in the calm, in the balance, in the unwavering presence of what truly supports your highest self. The twin flame operates on a rhythm you know all too well, a pattern of arrival, upheaval, and abandonment. They come in like a lightning bolt, striking you without warning, sending your entire reality into chaos. They trigger something deep within you, poking at your insecurities, forcing old wounds to resurface, and just when you're caught in the whirlwind they've created, they vanish. Their disappearance isn't quiet. It leaves destruction in its wake, and you're left picking up the pieces once again. They manifest you into their life when it suits them, but when it comes to grounding this connection in the real world, they falter, retreat, and leave you standing in the shadow of their inconsistency. The games they play are insidious. They reel you in with the promise of something deep, something transformative, and for a brief moment you're drawn into that fire again, thinking this time might be different. But it's never different. The cycle repeats. Chaos, pain, and abandonment. They leave behind a void that feels impossible to fill, not because you need them, but because they force you to face the darkest corners of your soul, only to abandon you there. This isn't love. It's a test, one that stretches your patience and your resilience to the very limits. And now the exhaustion has set in. You've done the work. You've dug into the depths of your soul, confronted your demons, healed the fractured parts of yourself. You've spent countless hours rebuilding the pieces of your spirit that they shattered. You've grown, evolved, and transformed into someone far stronger than the person they first met. Yet this connection continues to test you, to prod at the edges of your peace, threatening to drag you back into the spiral you fought so hard to escape. Their presence, whether physical or energetic, is a constant reminder of the unfinished business they represent. But here's the truth. Chosen one. This cycle only has power over you as long as you allow it. They will continue to come and go, to toy with the threads of your soul, as long as you remain open to their games. The real test is not in surviving their chaos. It's in finally breaking free from the cycle. You've outgrown this connection, and the exhaustion you feel isn't weakness. It's a sign that you've reached the end of what this lesson has to teach you. You are ready to close the door. The pattern can't continue unless you let it. You've reached a point of clarity, one that burns with the intensity of a supernova. The chaos they once brought into your life, the way they treated your heart like a revolving door, no longer has power over you. You've shed the skin of someone who was willing to accept half measures and broken promises. Now, you see through their actions, their indecision, their constant push and pull. You've outgrown the games. You've realized, with a force that shakes the core of your being, that you are not an option to be weighed, picked up, and cast aside at their convenience. You are the prize, the shining beacon of worth that no longer waits for validation from someone who cannot even validate their own soul. Their self-sabotage is a spiral they choose to live in, a cycle they can't seem to break. They come close to the flame of your brilliance, drawn by its warmth, only to pull away in fear. But that's no longer your concern. Their battle with their own indecision, their constant struggle to commit to what they know in their heart is real, is no longer a weight you are willing to carry. You are not here to heal them, to save them from themselves, or to wait for them to finally see what's been in front of them all along. That burden, that endless loop of emotional uncertainty, belongs to them, and you finally let it go. There's no more room for the half-hearted attempts they bring to the table. You've grown past that. Your spirit has expanded, your sense of self has solidified, and the time where you allowed someone else to dictate your worth has ended. You've learned the lesson. Your worth was never in question. It was always there, burning beneath the surface, waiting for you to recognize it. And now you do, chosen one. You see yourself clearly, standing tall in your power, no longer bending under the weight of someone else's confusion. Their indecision, their inability to choose, is not your reflection. It is their mirror, their battle, and one that you are no longer willing to fight on their behalf. You've grown, evolved, and realized that your path is not tied to their uncertainty. You are free, and in that freedom, you've reclaimed your worth. You stand as the prize, unshaken, untouchable by their self-inflicted chaos. The time for waiting is over. The time for knowing who you truly are has begun. They still linger in your life, don't they? Always hovering on the edge of your reality, drawn to you like a moth to a flame, yet terrified of the fire you've become. They want to be with you. There's no doubt about that. But fear grips them, holding them in a prison of their own making. They can't take the leap. They know deep down that they're not at your level. While you've been ascending, breaking barriers, and stepping into your highest self, they've stayed frozen in place, stuck in a cycle of indecision, afraid to face the very evolution you've embraced. Each time they reappear, it's as if they try to halt your progress, to pull you back into the vortex of their chaos. They feel the shift in you, the distance growing as you soar higher, and they can't handle it. They disrupt your energy, not out of malice, but because they're lost. And while once you may have been pulled into their storm, now you stand unmoved. You see through it all, the patterns, the manipulation, the subtle ways they try to trigger you, to bring you back into their orbit. But you've learned too much. You've shed too many layers, grown far too strong to be swayed by their tactics anymore. You understand now that their actions are not a reflection of you. They do not define your worth. They never did. Their fear, their stagnation, their inability to rise to your level is a burden they have to bear. It's not yours to carry. You've done the work, climbed through the trenches of your soul, faced your demons head-on, and emerged with a strength they can't even comprehend. The power they once had over you has crumbled to dust, swept away by the force of your self-awareness and growth. Their attempts to manipulate or control the narrative no longer hold any sway because you now know your worth with unshakable certainty. Their reappearance used to throw you off balance, but now it only serves as a reminder of how far you've come. You've broken the cycle, and their fear of losing you is palpable, but it's too late. You are no longer the person they knew. You are something more, something they can't reach because they chose to stay where they were while you soared beyond the limits they imposed. You see them clearly now, and their hold is gone. You've outgrown the storm they bring. You've been through the fire and come out transformed, every part of you shaped by the trials you endured. What once sought to break you now stands as a testament to your strength. The pain, the chaos, and the confusion were never meant to define you. They were meant to refine you. And now you no longer resemble the person who was once uncertain, searching, or desperate for validation. You know who you are with a clarity that cuts through the noise of the past, and you're ready to release everything that held you back. The burdens of the old self, the attachments that once weighed heavy on your soul, no longer serve you. They've been burned away by the flames of your transformation, leaving only your true essence, pure and unshakable. You've severed ties with the illusions that kept you bound, and in doing so, you've stepped into a power that feels limitless. It's not just a feeling, it's a reality. You're no longer defined by someone else's indecision or by the chaos of connections that drained your energy. You've risen above it, found your footing in the uncertainty, and now stand as a force to be reckoned with. Every wound, every scar, is a badge of honor, proof that you've faced your deepest fears and survived them. More than that, you've thrived in their wake. Now, your focus is different. You're no longer looking back, no longer questioning or doubting your worth. Those days are over. You've learned the most important lesson. You are enough, exactly as you are. You've tapped into a strength that is yours alone, and nothing from your past has the power to take that away. The people who once held sway over your emotions, who disrupted your peace, are no longer in control. You've claimed that control for yourself, and in doing so, you found a freedom that is unparalleled. You are rising, chosen one, and there's nothing stopping you now. This is just the beginning. The power within you is still growing, still expanding. What's next for you is more than just survival. It's thriving in every sense of the word. You are stepping into the highest version of yourself, and the future ahead of you is filled with possibility. But this is not a time to be silent. You have a story to tell, a truth that others need to hear. Your journey is a light for those still walking through the fire, and by sharing your experience, you become a beacon for others seeking their own transformation. Your story is one of resilience, growth, and unshakable power. Share it, and let others see what is possible when you choose to rise, when you choose to let go of what no longer serves you. You are not only rising for yourself, you are rising for those who need to see that it is possible. You've done the work, and now it's time to own your story. Speak your truth boldly and unapologetically. The world needs to hear it. Continue to rise, continue to grow, and let your transformation be a testament to the strength that lies within you. This is your time. Let your voice be heard.